come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Live exclusively for WCPT in Chicago, standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
Well, it's been quite a week.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, lots going on.
Wow.
And today's show is a special episode.
This is going to reveal all the evil in our country.
Okay.
Nice.
Loud. And I, you know, it's going to be a long show. Is that your cat in the background? Is the cat?
Yep.
I know your cat is a huge Twisted Sister fan, and Dee Snider
is. She's
joining
excited.
us in the second hour. I'm
She's
fingers
even
crossed.
got her Twisted Sister patch ready to go.
Look at that. Nicely done.
Yeah.
I literally got out my Twisted Sister t-shirt and I was like, I'm going to look like too much of a suck up. So I couldn't wear it today. So I'm just,
Okay, I'll suck up for you.
And I'm waiting for him to open his own Twitch channel where, you know, he and his kids game or whatever called Twitched Sister or something like that.
There you go.
I'm just saying it's going to work. It's a possibility.
Right there.
And by hook or by crook, we may have another guest as well in the second half hour, but we'll also be taking your calls today. And welcome to the show. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. And we are, I guess, this is a week of dichotomies. This was the week where the worst winter storm was blowing across Texas, wrecking the power grid. People are still without power. A lot of people are on a boil water alert with no water.
Yeah.
And Ted Cruz decided that he was going to wrap the whole family up and take them on a Griswold Mexican vacation and lied.
It's almost like he was fleeing to another country to get to better living conditions.
That's right, to save his family. He was crossing the U.S.-Mexican border just to provide for his family and make life better for them. The irony is palpable. And by the way, Mexico, when we send you our people, we're not sending our best.
No, we are not sending our best.
We're not sending our best. I'm a little mad. Honestly, if you'd have kept Ted, we would have just written off the whole wall thing. You wouldn't have owed us another thing. You know what I mean?
No.
It has been, I mean, that tale, that walking into a rake by a major politician with dreams of running for office is one of the most extraordinary political I don't even want to call it a mistake because it wasn't a mistake. It was just the blind spot that this guy must
he
live
really
in.
thought that, like, okay, I can do this, and here's why.
Right. That's cool. And so for those of you that didn't follow the Ted Cruz lie storyline, his photos appeared from the night before of Ted Cruz arriving in Cancun, family in tow, wife nowhere near him. That was weird.
Oh, no.
So, you know, maybe she was getting the luggage.
Mm-hmm.
And seemingly basically by himself, oddly enough, but allegedly with the family. Now, maybe they're just not showing the family in the picture. I give him total credit. Wait for a second. Don't post any of the ones where his kids are in. I'm totally fine with that, even though he posts pictures of them. But whatever. If the news was going to do that. But the pictures leaked of Tuesday night, him flying into Cancun. And the next morning, Twitter blew up. And social media and the news, and as these pictures started to spread. And Ted booked a flight that morning after the firestorm at 6 a.m. and flew back that afternoon to Texas because he'd been caught. And then when he was interviewed about it, said that, you know, I flew down there just to drop off the family and came right back because Texas is hurting right now. Texas is hurting. And lo and behold, we find out that his wife was on a text tree with other rich relatives. She works at Goldman Sachs, by the way. Just saying, for all the Edward Snowden fans who said that the election between, the 2016 election was between Donald Trump and Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, She was on a text tree with other families in the super rich neighborhood. And they, according to Ted Cruz, the girls wanted to take a trip. His daughters and their girlfriends were cold.
Aww.
They wanted to take a trip. And he said, sure. And in hindsight, he got on when he sat down on the plane in first class with a glass of wine in his hand, he had his second thoughts, that he really should be there. And he didn't change his flight then. He didn't land and do it. He didn't react to those. He just stayed. He had those thoughts. He weighed them against the death and destruction that was going on in his own state and went, eh. And then the next morning, when the excrement hit the HVAC unit, he starts scrambling, buys a ticket, a last-minute ticket. It even showed somebody knew he was going to be leaving, caught wind of the fact that he was,
they posted a screenshot of the manifest.
Yes, and that he was on the upgrade list, meaning that he couldn't buy his way into, first or business class like he had on his flight down. And can you imagine?
He just bought the ticket a few minutes ago.
I know, but can you imagine the nerve? Just that moment. Let's set all of it aside. You've been caught flying to Cancun during the worst winter storm in Texas, in the last 100 years in Texas. I mean, it was bad in 2010. They've had some other times. This is not completely out of the blue, but it's the worst they've seen in 100 years. You get caught flying to Cancun, and on the way back, you lie about having not just bought your flight. And you dare to try and get on the upgrade list. Like, think about what a complete creep
you would have so on brand.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like that moment where I had some second thoughts about it, but not enough to make me go, you know what, maybe I deserve to fly coach for this. And he's still in the front row of coach. Like the picture of him, there's like the business class. He's still got the extra, he's still got the jump. Just brutal. How in the world? And all along the way, Ted Cruz has been, the lines that he's been feeding people that he, just flew down there to drop them off. That was the original story.
Sure.
I'm just gonna say
there's no lie too dumb for him to not try.
Right. Let me tell you something. In my limited cable stardom, which is, permeate and mega worldwide, and we know this, it's shocking how many people know me and can spot me even wearing a mask with long hair. You just get an idea of how the power of being on Disney XD, but and VH1 nonstop for about 5 years. But what I was once asked, because of Queer as Folk, to come down and do an event in Mexico City. And because I'm known and because of some of the issues in Mexico, they provided me with armed guards throughout the whole trip. And it was gnarly. It was like the most extreme. I mean, I've traveled a lot of places overseas. I've been, through like Thailand and Cambodia, places like that. Never had full-on machine gun guards all the time to protect me from kidnapping. Never had to have a buyer for some event pay for kidnapping insurance. But that happened in Mexico. But we're supposed to believe that Ted Cruz, a sitting U.S. senator who's going to be running for president, was going to drop his unaccompanied minors off in Mexico and return. Now, his wife isn't in the picture. She's allegedly with them now. Did she go with at the same time, or did she fly ahead and he joined them later? Did they send them off and he was like, I'm going to catch a later flight because I can't get a business seat on the flight we're all going, or I can't be seen flying with all of you? I don't know what the reasoning is, but it's stunning. But the first story was he was going to fly down, drop them off, and come right back. The very fact that you're going to fly your children to Mexico for their own health and safety and then fly back as a modern Republican is in of itself insane. and meme ready. It's perfect. It is. It's gorgeous. But the idea that you're just going to drop them off and come right back when everyone knows you were planning on staying through the weekend, through Saturday, meaning that, they were at least going to be there, which means they were flying back Monday, but he didn't want to look like he was flying back on quote unquote a work day. So they've been telling this story. Like, why do you come back Saturday? What, for church? Are you kidding me? So this story can never die. This needs, because every detail of it as it unfolds becomes more of an indicator of Ted Cruz's character and of the modern Republican Party. It is.
And what's crazy is that there haven't been enough of these already. I mean, he reveals his cards at every turn. He can't
every time, and Ted Cruz is the new. There's always a tweet. Now that tweet about him saying, that I'll believe in climate change when Texas freezes over was a fake. It was, it's a fake tweet. But there's plenty of stuff where he's crapping on the governor of California and other states who need emergency. He voted against Sandy relief. He voted against relief for the victims of Hurricane Sandy. Voted against it. And then when his own state was needed help, he got a call. Oh my God. Have you heard the meteorologist story?
I don't think so. No, but we also can't forget to talk about Donald Trump Jr. having his back.
Oh, we won't. That's coming up too. We got to take a break. The Ted Cruz apologists are both next level, and thanks to Ted Cruz being continually the creep that he is, they all got hit with the same rake because they bought his first lie, covered for him, and then he walked it back. Okay, we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. This is amazing. And we have a special guest in the next hour, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, who, of the three, he's the living rock star that sat before Congress about the PMRC. And he was I won't shut up and sing before that was even a thing. So it's a fascinating aspect of, of modern life in our current circumstance. We'll be talking to him in the next hour. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. All right. Yeah, I have to see if I can call this up so that they can hear it on the stream, across the streams, without creating a complete kerfuffle for Chicago in that regard. Yeah. Put that feedback on it. It would.
You know how awful that Democratic governor of Texas is.
Oh, man. Well, that was, I think that was a mishearing of what they were talking about in terms of, because they were crapping on Newsom, but he didn't have the guts to say his name. He literally backed out of like, don't you even, he was just.
But Trump Jr. did tweet
yes.
as a Democrat governor.
Yes, that's here. I'll see if I can find that fun bit of business. Yeah. And I think ultimately he's talking about, let's see. Yeah.
Hey, so this is an extremely high-tech $5,000 handheld telescope. It was developed so that military...
Skip.
Guys, we got to talk Ted Cruz.
Guys, we got to talk Ted Cruz. God, just awful. Just grab the page. I don't put it over here. Thank you. Now I can open it up and see if the page goes in there because I don't have Rumble. Ugh. Let's see. Sharing a fan club with my friend. Bring this up. Yeah, here we go. And bye. Love you. Good luck.
20 seconds.
In Chicago, let me
Cruise a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you can hear that.
Guys, we got
guys. Oh, God. And it's indicative of the people who tried to help him, too. So, like...
Oh, it's perfect. He's going to have his back.
Get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We love you, Lady B, wherever you are. We hope you're home, warm and safe. Is it cold there today, Johnny?
Yeah, it's cold. Today's like the first warm-up day. It's 22 today, right now, where I am.
Why are you not in a Speedo? I'm very disappointed.
It's 10 degrees warmer than the last time I ran. So I'm going to run after this in like 25-degree weather, and I'm going to be showing some skin is all I'm saying.
All right. That's good.
Yep, my new pantsless running outfit.
Great. Finally. It's the Fart Man outfit that Howard Stern wore, right? That's what you jog in? Right.
Very flattering.
It is. It is good. So you have to understand the great thing about Ted Cruz's Cancun Cruz's lie this week was that he served up this lie so egregiously. He was interviewed in the airport, thought he was going to get away with it. He really, really, really did.
Mm-hmm.
And in telling his lie, he was like, okay, he's a lawyer. He went to Harvard. He went to Princeton. He knows how to legally frame an argument where I didn't say what you think I said, but I said enough to make you think I said what I want you to think I said. And in those terms, what did he ultimately say? He said, I'm flying back today. Not, I plan to fly back today. I was going to fly back today. I just flew down to see them off and then return to do my job because blah, blah. He wants to infer that without implying that.
Yeah.
He wants you to infer it without him implying it. And so everybody, all of his buddies, walked right into this rake. Sean Hannity gives him a rehab interview, doesn't know. Cruz does not give him the heads up.
I missed that.
Does not give him the heads up. I'll see if I can find that one for to play as well. But Don Jr. also walks into this, and listen to this. This is how everybody came. The ones that came to help Ted all sound alike.
Ted Cruz a little bit. I see the news.
Well, they don't all sound coked out of their minds, but you know what I mean.
Going out there right now. They're trying to, cancel him. He took a family vacation. Now, obviously, we understand sometimes, the optics of that right now isn't ideal. And
for those of you just listening on radio, no, that is not the new voice of Fozzie Bear, which isn't as funny as the old voice of Fozzie Bear. That's Don Jr. I don't know.
But in the grand scheme of things, he's a senator. He doesn't manage crises in states. That's
the I am not capable of helping angle from the Republicans is extraordinary.
Governor's job. He's a federal employee. They mostly vote on things. So
yeah, that's what federal employees do.
He's got a weird and also for people just listening, he's got a real weird cocaine jaw thing going.
Yeah, he's shooting up at his. We're getting full nostril view right now, which is a mistake. But he also just sounds like.
What about the senators that are actually currently helping Texas from their own states? Yeah,
there are House representatives who only represent small districts that are doing more for Texas than Ted Cruz. But I mean, let's all listen to this knowing that stuff.
Yeah, and everybody. I'm sorry. One more thing. Yeah. Everybody listening to this right now is doing more for Texas than Ted Cruz.
Right. Absolutely. This is stunning. So hold on.
To cancel the guy for taking his kids on a vacation. Again, maybe it's not the ideal time.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Maybe it's not the ideal time.
Maybe it's not the ideal time. Waka, waka, waka.
Quite certainly it's not, but give me a break. That they're spending more time focusing on this than they are, governors just flagrantly disregarding their executive orders, shutting down states, etc., shows you how ridiculous things are. Now, if I were a Trump,
that's a very reachy what about there.
Yeah, it is. It's what he's talking about is like Newsom going to that dinner party where everybody was wearing masks until they ate and everybody had been tested and all that kind of stuff, but the optics were bad. But you'll notice that Newsom stayed in the state, wasn't there during working hours, and didn't leave during the fires to do that. You know what I mean? You would have to have an equivalent where all of a sudden Gavin Newsom happens to have a house where the fire is, so decides to move his entire house to the Amazon for the weekend where it's nice and damp, and then moves it back when he's caught. Like,
damn, I'd come up with a nickname for something like this, like maybe.
Oh, and he goes, by the way, he said, if I was a Trump, and I am.
For something like this, like maybe, I don't know, Cancun cruise. It's funny, okay? But like,
okay.
Honestly, I can't get on this bandwagon trying to cancel the guy. It's totally ridiculous.
Dude, you're actually bringing up, I mean, do they not need to like just slam on Ted Cruz more? You know what I mean? It's bad enough what Trump called his wife and the allegations that he can't run for president because he's Canadian and his dad helped Castro kill JFK,
and he's the Zodiac killer. I think that
that's true.
State of the Zodiac killer is really looking to distance themselves from Ted Cruz.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they're like, we'll take
the heat.
Yeah, all the Zodiac documentaries on Netflix now start with a Ted Cruz is not the Zodiac killer. Please keep watching. Like people are like, I'm gonna watch a documentary about the Zodiac killer, but not if Ted Cruz is in it. I don't want to be that creeped out. Right.
Cruz. It's funny. Okay. But like, honestly, I can't get on this bandwagon trying to cancel the guy. It's totally ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. They should focus on the things that matter. They should focus on people in power who could actually affect change in a crisis.
Yes. Ted Cruz, for the record, in a crisis is useless. And by the way, I brought this up yesterday on my live stream, but like one of the things you can do as a senator, and I don't want to, for any new senators out there, maybe I can be a bit of help, is that when you've been in office for a while and you've been a presidential contender, you actually ran and all that stuff, other senators in nearby states who sometimes experience similar weather. And a lot of times when you get hit less than they get hit, you can call them and say, we're on committee and you guys were saying, during your infrastructure thing that you have all these bulldozers and stuff. Is there any way, do you guys have any water that, you use, that FEMA's allocated for you guys
share the resources
you don't need? Can you look? Because FEMA will, Texas isn't the only state hit by this stuff. So FEMA's not just dealing with Texas. It's just the squeaky wheel right now. So what you do
is it truth that he left his dog behind?
Yes, he left the dog. But in all fairness, he had his security detail provided for him by the taxpayer feed the dog while they were gone.
No.
And by the way, no word on who's feeding the security detail. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The American taxpayer is paying that guy to feed Ted Cruz's dog while he's in Mexico. It just gets worse. Okay. And by the way, Don Jr.'s assertion that this is somehow absurd and not worthy of a conversation is just as embarrassing.
Not people who work and legislate from D.C. Doesn't make sense. It's a double standard we'll always have to live up to. But let's be real. I'm happy to call out someone, even the people on our side, if they screw up. But honestly, in my opinion, this is not one of those times.
No. According to Don Jr., the heir apparent to the Trump fortune and the Trump political world, I mean, because Ivanka's not going to run, the second member in the Trump Pez dispenser. There are times to call out politicians for what they do. This ain't one.
This is not one of those times.
This is not one of those times. Waka, waka, waka.
Wow.
I don't know why.
Wow.
It's hard to.
Wow.
understand. That's, by the way, for those listening, that's Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, Mike Pillow, from his own documentary. Yeah, so we got to take a break. And the fallout from this, the recognition that, again, this is not just about Ted Cruz being Ted Cruz. This is about the Republican Party jumping in, because the Democrats, we tend to broom our own even before they deserve it sometimes, just out of optics, right? But in terms of the Republican Party, they could not move fast enough to do this. Like, they could not back Ted Cruz fast enough. And the irony is, nobody in Texas is. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget patreon.com/Hal Sparks, or you can support us by liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel at infotainmentwars.com. And then, of course, twitch.tv/Hal Sparks. If you're on Amazon Prime, you can subscribe there for free. And if you use Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime, and it helps support the show. Thanks very much. We'll be back right after this. So let me see if I'm going to find that. So I have not heard back from Richard, so I'm assuming we will have him on next week as kind of a pickup.
Okay.
Yeah. And hold on, I have to look in my, one of the scariest places on the internet, because of the nature of my show, is my watch history on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
It is an apocalypse. It is hell on earth.
Now, Senator Ted Cruz tonight is facing the ire of the mob, the media, for traveling to Cancun, Mexico, with his daughters to drop them off and
listen. Oh God!
There you go.
Yeah.
Here's the lie.
Jesus.
The tone changes.
So gross.
All fine. Nothing to see here.
Right. Okay. Turn that off and then share.
So
screen.
excitable.
Thank you. Yeah, look at this nonsense. God, just awful. If I stretch this, does it make it?
This is Doris Davenport, host of the Doris Davenport Show, all local, all the time. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, mega worldwide.
So Don Jr. wasn't the only person to leap in front of a bus, face up, mouth open. Sean Hannity was all too happy to run to Ted Cruz's defense. Can you imagine? Can you imagine doing this for that guy? You know, the guy who.
Well, so far this week they had to defend Rush Limbaugh and Ted Cruz.
Right.
Order.
Yes, that's right. And like Rush Limbaugh's passing, it was amazing how the entire story was the guy just died. How cruel to speak ill of the dead. When literally that was Rush Limbaugh's shtick. That was what he was known for. His own ditto heads were proud of that fact. The dude used to celebrate AIDS deaths. Do you understand?
Make fun of rape victims.
Yeah, right. During his life he was grotesque. I don't know what would bring someone to marry that person or what have you, and I do not I would not put myself between their grief and their life, right? That's immaterial. You know what I mean? But his actions during life speak for themselves. Yeah. And the fact that the Republicans were Boebert is basically insisting on Twitter, because that's how you do it, that Biden lower the flags to half staff in the Capitol for Rush Limbaugh.
Really?
Yeah. But she's calling on him, was what she said. I don't think it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't work that way. And especially since the song that he sang about Barack Obama and the fact that Biden considers Barack Obama one of his closest friends might be put a little hitch in your get along when you're on your way to fax that order over to the Pentagon and everywhere
so
else.
It's been a great week of just like sweeping up manure
and excusing these guys for everything. It's brutal. So needless to say, Sean Hannity was more than happy to jump. And again, you have to understand what I'm about to play for you is Sean Hannity interviewing a bit of Ted Cruz. And at this point, I agree, your cat is just as upset as I am.
Dead on.
Yes. She knows she just went fraud. That's what every time I put Ted Cruz's face up, she's like, So you have to understand, at this point in the day, Ted Cruz has already given an interview with ABC before Fox in Texas and walked the lie back. The whole, I was just there to drop him off. Okay. You have to understand that in context. So here, let me see, make sure that I grab enough of this. Here you go.
Tonight is facing the ire of the mob, the media, for traveling to Cancun, Mexico with his daughters to drop them off and come home as Texas is still addressing the fallout.
So understand that we start this show. This is going to be a rehab interview. They're showing footage of Ted Cruz. Sean Hannity
carrying something, or do his arms not move?
Oh, he's pulling a giant overnight bag that apparently had enough clothes in it for the weekend in Cancun.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And damage from severe weather. Now, in response, Senator Cruz tonight did say, in retrospect, he might have made a mistake, adding in a statement, in part, wanting to be a good dad.
By the way,
I flew down with them last night, and I'm flying.
Yeah. And by the way, this statement, Ted Cruz is about to be on the show. And Sean Hannity has just said he flew down there to drop off his kids and came back. Now he's playing the statement from the airport. And the word right and in back, is the fly right back. That's an addition that Sean Hannity makes when he's reading it.
It's not on the statement.
It's not on the statement itself. When Sean Hannity says, I'm going to fly right back, he goes, and today I'm flying back. He said, flying right back. That's Sean Hannity's fake newsing it.
Adding in a statement, in part, wanting to be a good dad. I flew down with them last night, and I'm flying right back this afternoon. And he did. My staff and I.
And he did. He said that after it, like at the airport.
Constant communication.
And somebody in the comments said if he wanted to be a good dad, he could lead by example and show that he cares about his constituents.
Well, that's insanity. I mean, come on. Can we be adults here? You're expecting that behavior of Ted Cruz. Don't be a crazy person, chat room. And John, you know better.
I know. I'm sorry.
That level. Yeah. Don't even. Please, for God, man. So understand that before Ted Cruz comes on, Sean Hannity on Ted Cruz's behalf has lied and extended the lie and repeated the lie twice. So shall we continue?
To get to the bottom of what happened in Texas. Joining us now to talk about it is Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, man. He looks really happy. He's right back in the same chair he was. Well,
I have a piece of this story that nobody knows that you
listen to this story. This is the meteorologist story, kids. Listen to the syntax of the story that they're telling.
To be true, and Governor Abbott knows to be true. And that is, I got contact very early in the week from the official meteorologist of my radio show.
The official meteorologist of your radio show. They work for the network he's on. He doesn't have his own meteorologist. Sean Hannity's show is not an all-inclusive news program where they provide traffic and weather.
Bastardi, frequent guest on this program at weatherbell.com.
Yeah, he's an anti-climate change guy.
And he sent a note to both of you, to you and Governor Abbott.
A note.
In that note, he said this is going to be far worse than I think others are predicting.
So Ted Cruz knew before it hit and before he packed his family off to Cancun, in the middle of it that it was going to be far worse. So understand, this is Sean trying to help Ted Cruz.
You got in touch with him. The governor got in touch with him. You took it seriously.
And
So I left.
Well, yeah, took it seriously. Like, we're bugging out.
Yeah.
That's how you take it seriously. Whoa, that bad?
Yeah.
You know, when Sean Hannity's personal meteorologist is calling you.
And you worked hand in hand with the governor in the lead up to this, knowing
that's adorable.
This was all a big possibility. And this is days before that happened. And
yeah, days before you flew to Cancun.
Fully and completely engaged. And I know that from my own reporting and my own conversations with you and Governor Abbott and with Joe Bastardi.
This gets worse.
What?
You went and you took your daughters to Cancun and you came back. I think you can be a father and be the senator of Texas all at the same time.
And Ted is nodding through all of this. And Ted is about to drop a pile of manure in Sean Hannity's lap.
Make a round trip, quick drop-off trip and come home.
Yeah. But is this the 5th time he's made that lie, that you just flew down to drop them off? He inserted the word right. Like, he's trying so hard. And Ted is nodding at his friend, Sean Hannity.
Well, Sean, that's right. And starting with what you opened with, you connected me with Joe early on before these storms actually even hit the state of Texas.
And I did nothing.
And I got to say, you called me and told me Joe was very impressive. He knew his stuff. And I called him that evening and spent significant time on the phone with him talking
to Sean Hannity's personal meteorologist. You don't think Governor Abbott is in contact with the National Weather Service?
Yeah.
Through what he saw.
Where does that guy get his information from? He gets it from the National Weather Service, who lets governors and people in power know when stuff's going to hit as best they can.
And he was predicting not one, but 2 major winter storms, the combination of which
would require me to fly business class to Cancun.
He believed would have an impact on Texas that would exceed anything we've seen in this state since 1899. And I thought it was a very impressive, a very serious. He sent me charts and data on what was coming. And
this isn't getting better. This isn't knowing you knew it was worse.
Do you know that guy? I'm sorry, Hal.
Yeah.
Do you know that guy on Twitter, Just Dweck?
No.
He's pretty good. He's pretty funny. And he just tweeted out, I think yesterday, nobody should have to look at this many pictures of Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
It's out to Governor Abbott and said, listen, this guy knows his stuff.
Wait for it.
You ought to talk to him.
This guy knows his stuff and you ought to talk to him. Wait for it.
Help connect them. And, at the same time, Governor Abbott had already declared an emergency.
Jesus.
Oh, wow.
Come on. What have we learned so far? We have learned that Ted Cruz was busy talking to Sean Hannity's personal meteorologist, who was emailing him charts and graphs. And by the time he took it seriously, Governor Abbott had already declared an emergency and had already requested the emergency relief from the federal government. They were drafting it and had already sent it to Biden.
254 counties all across Texas. And so I joined with John Cornyn in urging Joe Biden to declare a federal disaster to mirror the governor's request, which President Biden, to his credit, did. And so,
yeah, he did. He did right away. They had already prepared for the request. Biden literally said at a podium when asked about it, he goes, as soon as they put the request on my desk, I'm signing it. They're going to need all the help they can get early on in it. Before Ted Cruz was like, I don't know, is there anything going to happen? I mean, honestly, is there, until you have to understand, until Sean Hannity's personal meteorologist called Ted Cruz, he wasn't engaged at all. According to who? Ted Cruz and Sean Hannity, who are hoping to rehabilitate Ted Cruz for 2024 right now.
Was early on, right before these storms came, we knew they were serious. This week has been hell for the state of Texas.
Yeah, you came back from Cancun.
Yeah.
2 storms on top of each other. 4 million Texans lost power.
I love how he says this like we don't know. Like that is precisely why everyone is outraged at this jerk.
Power, no lights, many with no water. It has been frustrating. I'll tell you, Sean, a lot of Texans are mad or pissed off. How could it be that Texas, the energy capital of the world?
Boy, you really flex that one?
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
The one that is completely disconnected from the rest of the power grid in the nation.
Yeah, I think this is
flaunting how they can't handle it when there's any stressor.
Right. Well, and that's the argument they were making is most of the time Texas energy costs are really cheap until they don't work and people die. Like that's you know why you pay a little more? So that it's consistent.
Homes. A lot of Texans are frustrated.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have happened. I'll tell you, Heidi and me, we lost power for 2 days. Our house was dark. We had no heat. Actually, the fireplace behind me, we were all huddled around the fireplace because it was the only heat in the house. And after a couple of days, after the girls being really cold, it being in the teens and the 20s outside, our girls said, look, school's been canceled for the week. Can we take a trip and go somewhere warm?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, let's go to Florida. You can stay at Uncle Marco Rubio's house. We'll just go there to another state, and then I'll come right back to work, and you guys will still be in America.
And Heidi and I, as parents, we said, okay, sure. And so last night I flew down with them to the beach.
Wait for it. Remember, Sean Hannity has lied 5 times.
And then I flew back this afternoon. I had initially planned to stay through the weekend and to work.
Boom.
Oops.
He was nodding all the time while
did he want credit for changing his mind, or did he know that he'd already been found out?
Yes. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Sean Hannity was literally just whacked in the face with a rake, figuratively. I misused literally, and I refuse to do that. Figuratively, whacked in the face with a rake by Ted Cruz. Because Ted Cruz set him up.
Yep.
Sean Hannity, congratulations. You are now dumber than Ted Cruz. Because it's bad enough that Ted Cruz did this, but you were suckered by Ted Cruz into protecting him. Good God. Ted Cruz. We'll be back right after this.
Can you take him off the screen, Hal?
I'm sorry. It's terrible. It's painful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. It's just awful.
I wanted that going into break.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not here to blow wind up your wazoo.
Yeah, Lindell's stuff. Oh God. I'm going to be doing on. I think I'm going to do it as a special program, depending on the timing of stuff. Either on Sunday or Monday, the new shortened half-hour version of Mike Lindell's special, if it stays up and I can, which is absolute evidence. And
you're going to try to do a
wow.
supercut?
Yeah, totally.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
He's really impressed.
Oh man, it's brutal. And he does through the whole thing. He's talking to somebody and they say something and he turns to the camera and goes, oh God, super fun.
Yeah, I told you so.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't make sense either, did it?
Nope. Let's see if I can do this.
It's 24 degrees. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh. You're going to have to cut other parts out of your outfit. Right on. What the heck? Get out of here.
Back in 20.
Thanks.
Help address mass power outages.
Okay, that was. No, it won't work.
Okay, I'll try another one.
But yeah, Biden has already, 2 days ago, already ordered supplies sent to Texas before they needed it. Before they requested stuff.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio.
They just got
Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
And we are listening, thanks for joining us, by the way, to the sultry sounds of Ted Cruz making an ass out of Sean Hannity, which is kind of beautiful. I mean, it's, as gifts that go on the week, this is a pretty good one. So we continue. This is, by the way, just after Ted Cruz told Sean Hannity that he was planning to stay through the weekend, and now he's having second thoughts.
But as I was heading down there
in first class,
I started to have second thoughts almost
about this bottle of wine
immediately, because the crisis here in Texas, you need to be here on the ground, and as much as you can do by phone and Zoom.
You mean like Beto O'Rourke was doing? Because Beto O'Rourke did phone trees that were reaching out to over 100,000 elderly people to make sure they had food and water and heat. And he's the guy who actually won. You're going to start getting into Rudy Giuliani territory.
The same as being here. And so I returned this afternoon, and I'm here working to make sure to do everything we can to get the power turned on, but also fundamentally to ask the questions, why did this happen?
It happened because Texas made a decision a long time ago to not participate in the United States of America. That's why.
And all the federal energy regulators, when every time Texas blows up, they say, yeah, you got to winterize your stuff, pal, or it's going to do this again. And they go, oh, yeah, that sounds expensive. We'll just see how many people die next time.
Exactly. There's a cost-benefit ratio of dead Texans.
It was the Texas grid, which is regulated at the state level. It's operated at the state level. It's not a federal function.
So all the failures are at the state level. And
states' rights, baby.
Yeah.
The state function, but why was the grid not sufficiently prepared so that 4 million Texans?
We all know. You're the senator of your state. Why didn't you know before the storm hit, when Sean Hannity's meteorologist had told you, and you ran off to Cancun? How do you not?
Was lost heat and power. We need to answer that, and we need to make sure.
This is his getting tough on climate stance.
And also, somebody in the chat pointed out that Fox has cropped out his rolling bag, so you can't see that he's got all this luggage.
Oh yeah. It's like it's tucks up as far as the shot, which makes him look weird. So you can't see, because it's quite obvious.
It just looks like his trunk is all wrong,
Yeah, like he's just kind of walking.
Like he's wearing a back brace.
Yeah, right. Like he went down to Cancun for a treatment.
To what extent? Now, Texas is very unique in that there's no federal control authority over their energy grid. It's separate and apart, which for a lot of different reasons is.
Yeah, and all of them dumb. One of the biggest reasons is screw the United States of America. We're still mad about the Confederacy. Yep. I mean, honestly, that's a big reason why Texas, removes itself. By the way, we are now currently talking about Texas in the way that we are in terms of their electrical needs and the needs and wants of their people. In many ways, the same way we talk about a third world country, which is rich because of resources, but fails its people.
Yep.
And we are talking about it because, like a lot of these, these countries that we provide aid to regularly, and foreign aid to, they are run by autocrats and who are linked in with the business, namely oil and gas. And that, when it goes south, as long as it doesn't kill anybody who's rich and they can still fly to, another country to avoid any responsibility, they're fine. I mean, if we're talking about this like we talk about Myanmar, the people of Texas would shrug it off.
It's very good for Texas.
They'd be like, why are we helping them? It's very good for Texas.
You said for many reasons that are very good for Texas.
Yes, except when it isn't. Right.
Except for the Texans.
As you do not have to abide by the burdensome regulations of
the burdensome regulations that keep people alive.
They don't realize, like, do you know that Twitter account Accidentally Left Wing?
Uh-huh. I know. I'm not familiar with it. But
it's where right-wing Republicans state their own awful policies, actually proving the left-wing point.
Right. Yeah. That you need more government intervention. Like, and basically, Sean, the Texas government is run like Republicans always want a government. We want a government like we've said, so small you can drown it in a bathtub. Now, we never suspected that someone would come along and drown it in a bathtub, and we need to get to the bottom of why.
Government very smart on Texas's part, and I think that's brilliant.
Well, I think that's brilliant.
I'm not really sure. I thought we learned during COVID that teleschool, telemedicine.
By the way, this is him now. Sean Hannity is digging himself out of the hole that Ted Cruz put him in by saying he could have helped Texas from Cancun.
Working, Zoom calls, all this other stuff changed the way we do everything. Now, I'm not assuming that the people of Texas, with all the natural resources of Texas, why is Texas relying on wind turbines, which, by the way,
for whatever reason, this is on Fox's site that I'm playing this clip from, and there's a weird edit that involves two old people, and then they jump ahead in the conversation. I don't know what that is. Maybe they accidentally played footage of someone who was harmed and decided to cut it out later.
It's use it or lose it. You can't store that energy.
Yes, you can. You can do it with batteries. And the problem was, 85% comes from nuclear, gas, and coal and oil in Texas. And it was the machinery that delivers it and the facilities themselves that failed, not the actual source. They obviously didn't weatherize their stuff, but oh my gosh, somebody's joining us at the top of the hour. I'm so excited. We're like,
it's for real?
Oh, it's for real. And he's here early. So I feel like I got to bring him in. I just got to say hi. He's having his cup of coffee. I could see his smiling face in the, I'm too excited. I'm too excited about it. I know. Johnny Million is excited. I'm excited. We'll tease it. We got 3 minutes before the break. So let's bring him on right from.
Oh my God. Yes.
Twisted Sister and Widowmaker, which Johnny and I saw live in Chicago. It's Dee Snider joining us right now live on the program. I can't believe it. How are you?
I'm with the most boring background possible for a heavy metal rock star.
You can have a cat crew.
No, I think it's kind of like, how they repainted the apartment in American Psycho and he came back to see if the body was still there? It's exactly that color scheme. I actually think it's more frightening. I've become more I'm giving it away.
It's today on the Earther May.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dee Snider. That's right.
A lot of action. Bodies.
So, Dee, and it's just a tease for you guys, guys who are listening. Right. I'm so excited to talk to you both about a little bit about the shut up and sing world that we're in an ironic sense, the flip-flop that came over the last years, because you obviously, during the break, if people don't know, I recommend you go straight to the internet and look up the PMRC hearings, and you'll know why this is, beyond just me and Johnny Million fanboying to have Dee on today. And the idea that in many ways, quarantine, COVID, and all these things have made us all a little more engaged, because you can't avoid the funnel of life that, we're all sharing the same information. Right. And you've had to deal with this, like a lot of people, and you have not backed down in this. And I'm very impressed. I've always been impressed by you, but I'm impressed by your pushback. Like, hey, if you can't be a fan and believe, what I believe, then cool. Bye.
Yes, very simple. It's very simple.
Yeah, it's great. So we're gonna tease this up because we got to take a break, and then we're gonna start at the top of the hour. We got about 5 minutes behind the scenes. If you want to rush over to YouTube or Twitter or Twitch or any of the the fountain of internets and webs, we'll talk during the break with Dee a little bit, and then we'll be back on the air with them at the top of the hour. This is the Hal Sparks Radio Program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT820.com. We'll be back right after this. By the way, Dee, that's Johnny's music playing in the background.
That's me playing guitar.
That's right. Yeah.
Right on, Johnny. Right on.
Dude.
I've got a flex here. Where's my camera? Where's
you
my
have to
camera?
hold it right in the middle.
Oh,
there
yeah.
You go.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. Thank you. I know this. You know what? This is good fodder. What I'm about to say here for the back behind the scenes, because you have your own agenda of what you want to talk about. But today is the second annual Thank You Plant Medicine Day.
Yes.
And I'm a very unique ambassador because I'm not a user. I've never experienced it or experimented with it, but my entire family is deeply used into it. Ayahuasca, Wachuma, all of it, including my wife, Suzette, who's been like 15 down to Peru. And the mental and physical changes that I've witnessed. My son has been cured of ADHD. My son Cody, who's got his first movie with Warner Brothers, he's directing, starting up with Margot Robbie and Michael Shannon in it. But he's ADHD after years of dealing with medications and stuff, gone. Brain map completely changed. And dude, I'm like sitting here just in amazement, as a sinner. My wife, Suzette, after she had some stomach issues for years, after she came back from ayahuasca, the nutritionist did her blood work, and he did not know she did ayahuasca. He's been dealing with it for years. She said, I don't know what happened to you. You've got the blood work of a different person.
Wow. That's amazing.
So two of my kids who had dealt with depression in a big way, cured of. So anyway,
you and I both share that. Dee, you and I both share that. Neither one of us imbibes or involves ourselves in psychoactive substances. And yet at the same time, I was one of the people. I worked with Danny Glover and Melissa Etheridge and everybody to pass marijuana legalization, decriminalization in California for medical use especially. So this is absolutely something worth talking about on the air as well, in terms of—
I'd love to. People are surprised to hear me speak again, but but I've witnessed it. I cannot deny it. If I needed it, I would certainly go there. What it's doing for vets with PTSD, it's incredible. So, I am here to just tell people, look, if you don't have to do it, but acknowledge it, support it, recognize it, respect it, accept that it is as important as anything, as any pharmaceutical that's out there, if not more important, because it's natural and real,
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic conversation to have. And it also is, we're entering into a situation where everybody is in the space of trust science these days, which is a great movement forward. And then at some point we are going to enter into the area where science trusts some of these remedies enough to look into them, because before it was really about science stiff-arming these things and saying, we can't look into this because of the moral aspect of smoking pot or whatever, the weight it carried with it, right? You can't do studies on it because it's, it goes against the scientific concept, like looking into acupuncture or something. Exactly. Yeah. Now,
but it's got to be as much science as anything else. If you would actually figure out there's some chemical reaction that's happening within the body that's affecting these brain synapses and different, so it's purely scientific. It's just not regarded that way. It's disregarded. It's put it on blank, as you said, as being like, it's a hippie. Well, let's start with Nixon. Really. You go back to Nixon, with
quite frankly, foreign. The idea of like both ayahuasca, and being the sort of more like in the LSD zone as far as how people think, whereas LSD is a chemical that was created for that purpose. This was a naturally occurring substance. I mean, basically, humans have been limiting poison in our lives for our benefit for a very long time. Spicy foods, making alcohol by fermenting things, not just for drinking, but for cleaning wounds and the like. There's a reason why we figured, the natural ramifications. Yeah. We're back in what? How much?
20 seconds.
Great. Okay, cool. So what's the actual date, or like the name of the day, Dee?
Today is the second annual. It's Thank You. I don't get the name, but it's Thank You Plant Medicine Day. And thankyouplantmedicine.com is a website that champions and also directs people and gives them guidance. Because one thing that people do need to know, you don't do pharmaceuticals without a prescription or doctor's care.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing plant medicines without some guidance by somebody who knows what you're doing.
Gotcha. Yeah, clearly.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Face food, stick.
True progressive talk. Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome to the show, everybody, and welcome to our guest, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister and his own solo work and Widowmaker and Strangeland. I mean, you're an all-around dude. And just thanks for being here, man.
Get ready, by the way. Get ready, boys, because I'm just finishing my next solo album for Napalm, which I'm hoping will be out by early summer. Another Sledgehammer. You'll be pleased. Jamie Jost at the helm again. This
Great.
one, well, I'll tell you. Don't tell anybody.
Right.
The title of the album is "Leave a Scar."
Nice.
And is a title. And it's anyway, it's very, and a lot of inspiration taken from what's happening in the world today. You can't not absorb this. And if you're a Hal Sparks or a Dee Snider, shoot it back out at people in a very powerful way. So I'm doing it in a very metallic way.
Yes, indeed. For people that don't know, For the Love of Metal was the last album Dee put out with the same with Napalm, and I got the album pre-order just for the record, no pun intended, because I knew it would be slamming, and I'm super I would buy this one already just from you talking about doing the vocals for it a couple of weeks ago. So I'm excited to hear it, and tell me a little bit about the inspiration part of it, because you've obviously been watching the news, and we've all been dealing with, you have bands like Megadeth and stuff being around for a long time. And then we experience a mass death event in the United States, and the way people handle it or dismiss it or, become completely, afraid of it or disassociate. There's a lot of ways to handle this. What was the moment where you started writing songs that were about what we're all experiencing in this?
Well, the writing process and starting up the album with my band and Jamie Jost at the helm again, it started right around during COVID, and also during the political, after the election. That's when we were really gearing up after the election and all the shit starting to go down. And
luckily, your connection censored you, so we don't have to drop. But it's regular radio rules. Wink, wink.
Oh, thanks for telling me that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's good to know. I thought it was a podcast or something.
No.
Yeah. All right. I can control with break.
I know.
So, I'm very good with that. But one of the things that really just is the apathy. I'm really just not seeing the pushback from, I'll say, our side. One credit I'll give to the other side, the extreme right, is they open their freaking mouths, not getting violent. That's where you cross the line. But they speak up. And for the most part, people on the left or on the center just sort of go quiet. And I'm like, you gotta shout just as loud. You gotta take, and there's a song on the record called "Stand," and the chorus line, which don't leave your mark, leave a scar, and and that's where the title of the album comes from, "Leave a Scar," and it's just, and I dealt with. You mentioned the Senate hearings in the 80s.
Yeah.
When they asked me to come testify, I said, I'll take the flag. I'll lead the charge. And when I got there, it was me, Frank Zappa, John Denver, and with and nobody else. Everybody was like, what happened to the industry? What happened to the band?
It's really well documented in your, there's a biography available called We Are Twisted Sister that's got a really good chunk on that. About you looking around and saying, where did everybody go?
Yeah. And I was really disheartened that people, the fans were so apathetic, and the bands took this side in the fence kind of, well, I don't want to offend anybody. Like,
right.
Look, I get that you don't want to be shooting your mouth off all the time, but sometimes you got to take a stand, man.
Yes, absolutely.
Important time in our history, and not the time to be sitting back and saying, well, let me see what happens, or I'll let things sort themselves out. No, it wasn't that time. So there's a lot of that motivated a lot of the writing on the album.
Well, but you're in a unique position, as am I in a lot of ways, in that, like, you and I are who we are online. We're not nameless trolls with anime icons covering for who we are, and we're really, a dude who works in the White House pretending to be like, I'm a local Texan, who cares, But we are, once we say our piece, we're open for a line of attack that is different from even the average citizen who could, if they decided to, just change their name online and nobody would be the wiser, because they don't, so there is a bit of a plank walk that happens when you decide. And, I'm sure there's been a time where you're like, okay, do I post this? Yeah, I post this. Do I say this? Do I go out on this limb? Those are moments that because nobody did show up. That was the point, that you did. And you look back, and there was a bunch of people who there was a hitch in their get along. They just did not. They're like, I don't know. And you didn't. And that's there has to be a moment where you make that decision. What's that like for you? Where does that come from inside you?
Well, in the 80s with the Senate hearings, there was no hesitation. I just assumed in my infinite stupidity that everybody would, yes, we're doing this.
Come on, guys. Right.
It was like, right. Where is everybody? It was like, Belushi charging out of the room in Animal House. And nobody followed him.
Right.
Idiot. So, so that it was like, wow, that was not a smart career move on the immediate level. There was a lot of with that, and it caused problems for me. Long term, I have no regrets, and also it sort of made this sort of like legendary. The only survivor who was actually there. So so that this time out, I know I'm not going to. I could be going to this dance alone. And I know that people are not, and a lot of them are actually verbalizing, I think musicians, we should just, I don't want to take a side. I'm not, side, and Alice Cooper, people reprinting him saying musicians shouldn't speak about politics. The guy sang a song called Elected.
Yes.
Elected. It was okay. But anyway,
right.
But in terms of and you go, you know what? I'm crossing this line, and now I'm all in. I'm all in.
It's always struck me as ridiculous when people are like, singers especially shouldn't voice their opinion about the life we currently live in. Meanwhile, you have an audience full of plumbers and construction workers and traffic light repairmen and women and doctors and lawyers and all these people, and they're singing along with your song, and at no point does the singer go, hey guys, leave the singing to me. stay in your lane. Like, if you want to write a legal brief in the middle of my show, knock yourself out. But honestly, don't come into my arena, shut up and lawyer. Like, nobody does that with their audience. And yet there's, you know what I mean? It's a unique fence that's put around artists.
And it's woefully wrong. So you're allowed to shoot your mouth off endlessly, plumber, but because I'm a entertainer, I'm not allowed equally to say what I think.
Yeah,
and I got to talk about inspiration. There's a song on this album called "Open Season," and it was Jamie Johnson's idea. He was watching me on social media, and he said, "These people, they come at you." And he says, "Oh my God!" And you just like level them, and and then you just bang them into the ground, and then they're just dust. So getting shot in the face with a gun. So and he said, "We need to do a song called Open Season." And the first line is, "Hey mother effer, are you kidding me?" And it's like that's the first line.
That's the world we live in.
You're coming at me like this. Do you have any idea what I do, who I am? Do you know who Hal is? Yeah, I mean, I watched you go out and handle these people. It's like, seriously? Do they know nothing about you, Hal Sparks?
Yeah,
Do they know nothing about you? Celebrity duets, their only insight into you as a person.
That's right. Yeah, that's where they think you and I just once stood in front of David Foster and Little Richard, and we're like, huh? That's like, no, it's a little deeper than that. Although I have to say, since you brought it up and we're right at the break point, can you stay with us for one more segment? Can you do that?
Sure. I told my wife it was an hour, but whatever you got. Cool.
Oh man. Well then, all right. That was a mistake on your part. I'm just saying, because that's exactly how much we have left in the show. No, we're going to take a break right now. We're back with Dee Snider, but I have to say, sharing a stage with you, my friend, is one of the proudest moments in my life, and was for both Johnny and Million and I. Just talking about the fact that it was happening at the time was a jaw drop in my existence. It really was. Period. End of story. It's nice when it's nice when you meet your heroes and they're everything you hoped they would be. And Dee, you are that. We'll be back right after this. Enough sucking up. We'll just talk like normal people after this. I promise. All right. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Don't forget patreon.com/Hal Sparks. And of course, like and subscribe, thumbs up, and all that stuff. We'll be back. Yeah. Everybody in the chat's going, Hal's a fanboy. Hal's fanboying. Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Johnny looks really excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get a lot of activity in the chat. There's a lot of action going on there. I can't read.
Oh, yeah.
Sunglasses. I used to lie about that, but it was. I went backstage to see. It was Velvet Revolver, and I came walking back, and Slash. I was like, Slash, how's it going, man? He goes, who is it? I can't see. I'm wearing sunglasses.
Oh my God.
Well, he's going to be honest about it. I'm going to be honest about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's
sunglasses.
Well, it's, I find they're useful hiding eye rolls. That's the only time I wear sunglasses indoors, is if I know, like, honestly, I think one of the only places I walked around in sunglasses at one point was Politicon, because I had to stand backstage with so many cretins and not let them know that I was onto them until we were on stage. Like, so many of them didn't know who I have a picture with Glenn Beck, of all people, and he's literally grimacing in the picture. I was like, I got to do this. And he's going, because he literally didn't know whether he should smile or not in the picture with me, because he didn't know what was going to happen. So that's his default. Can you imagine going through life? Like, I'm not going to smile with this person. They might hate me. Like,
well, you know what? I give him credit for that.
It's a smart move.
To be like, and
hey,
saying something like, I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
I just thought you were a fan.
Right. But he has to do that all the time. It's one thing to be caught, like going, I don't know this dude. He can't even know that.
The non-committal.
Yeah. Like, hey. And like, you can't you look like you were on your way to an audition to be the next Colonel Sanders, and they said no thanks while you were in the car. So don't act like you're this tough dude. He's good. Well, I knew Colonel Sanders. Honest to God, I knew Colonel Sanders, and he is no Colonel Sanders.
No Colonel Sanders.
That's right. Yeah, Glenn Beck, you are no Colonel Sanders. He baked me a cake on my 10th birthday. That's a true story.
Really?
Yeah, random as hell at his wife's restaurant in Lexington, Kentucky. He used to knock boots with my great grandmother. It's a long story.
And it just gets heavier and cooler.
It does.
Coming back in 10 seconds.
Okay, we're 10 seconds away from me not being able to tell that story on the air. So okay, we'll be hold on. We're coming back.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
I have to say, the conversations during the break are worth subscribing to the YouTube channel just on its own, infotainmentworth.com. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the good stuff happened while you were on the commercial break. The best
Boy, did it. But, in keeping with what we were talking about during the first break, when you first entered the show, which was kind of sidelined from what we're talking about. And I think it's important because we're talking about going out on a limb. And there's, in a world of like current anti-vaxxers where people are going, this is science that works and they're against it. There's another side, which is an area that science hasn't fully explored that deserves exploration. And you were bringing up this is the second annual Thank You Plant Medicine Day. And a lot of people may know that, or maybe they don't, that you and I are both teetotalers. We're both, what would used to be called straight edge. I don't drink or do any drugs whatsoever, never have. You've never been high that I'm aware of other than the stage experience, that you get when you're up there.
Yeah. And this is actually, there's a video I do with my family on Instagram and Facebook. Check it out. And I talk specifically about that. I lived during the decade of decadence and never got high.
Yeah.
Never did any drugs, never drank, no hallucinogens, no marijuana, certainly no plant medicines.
Right.
And yet in the last several years, my entire family, including my wife, have got very involved with plant medicines and have had miraculous personal experiences with mental health and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
That as an outside observer, what I've seen and what I've experienced, and I've tried to.
Right.
And so I'm becoming an ambassador for medicines because I think, and I'm seeing it by the reactions, people go, let's take it a little more serious because I'm not a participant and I'm not that guy, I'm not Lee Harrelson or one of these pot smokers. I'm not saying anything wrong with me. But I'm that guy who goes, no, I don't do that. But this is for real, what's happening. And it has value. It is important.
I think that's the value of the statement you bring to it. Because I was always dragged along for and I supported them, but I was always asked along for the legalize or decriminalize marijuana stuff that I did with Danny Glover and Melissa Etheridge and others in the state of California and other states. Because on a basic level, you're like, look, a nonviolent pot user, we're throwing them in jail. And for the cost of having them in jail for a year, we could have 2 teachers in the school budget. You understand like the value versus what you're getting in normal, just fiscal responsibility. Like that just makes sense to me. And they're not a danger to society. There's even an argument they're not harming themselves within limits. So why would I do that? Why would I have this prohibition behavior that would build up gangs in the same way that, Al Capone ruled Chicago? So I was I had benefit instead of Bill Maher or somebody who's obviously just arguing for their own usage. Like they just don't want to be hassled by the cops. But I gave a voice to it in a way that I was like,
or at least it appears that way. Or at least people can write it off as that. I don't think that's necessarily fair to say.
It is about Bill.
Cases, whether Woody Harrelson, he has an appreciation for it, but I don't think it's just I like to get hood. I think they really have a respect for it. But for you to say it just has gravitas because they don't expect us just to endorse it. But you know what? I was never anti-drugs or anti-alcohol. I'm anti-a-holes. If you're capable of maintaining, some of my closest friends were out of there. Let me kill Mister. We had an incredible friend relationship. That guy was maintaining at a level people can't even imagine during his lifetime. And yet, but he always was Lemmy and under control, and he respected that it wasn't a choice for me. I respected his choice. So it's not. Let's be clear. I'm not anti drugs, alcohol. Not right for me, and to each his own within reason.
And that's a strange. Yeah, you have to understand. That's a very strange perspective in our modern culture in a lot of ways. And right now, in the political world, a lot of, even though you and I are seen as leftists by the right, in a lot of ways, what we're arguing for is functional government so we can all get on with the business of not being businessy. And, it's not like we're looking for everybody to live a bank manager's life. That's not the purpose. It's that you need it. You need the system operating and run by people who care and really want the best for everybody, even if they don't agree with them on political terms, so that the rest of us can get on with making music, making comedy, delivering content that people like, making films and the like, and it's the same thing with drugs. Most people are either for it and in it or against it in that very distinct line. And, you being that ambassador is kind of the fascinating part. So you were saying that like your family's had an experience with this.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And again, I'm an outside observer. I'm not in the Maloka. This is where they ayahuasca. My son, Cody, who's a film director, he starts his first movie. They start filming in May with Margot Robbie and Michael Shannon. He had ADHD, chronic, not just this, let's medicate the kids stuff. And he struggled with the meds, struggled with trying to find he's a writer, director, and he would sit in front of a computer some days and just be a move, and he went and he got into brain mapping and the almond clinic where they use magnets to try to, and he had all these dead spots in his brain from sport accidents during his childhood. And he had his brain mapped before he went to Peru. When he came back, not only was he cured of ADHD, but they mapped his brain again, not knowing he had done ayahuasca. As a matter of fact, the clinic was anti-ayahuasca. And they said, wow, the dead spots are fixed. They're gone. And they were mystified. How did that happen? How did the brain reroute itself into synapses and whatever? And he hasn't had ADHD since. That was miraculous. Two of my kids suffered from depression, and they was cured through plant medicine. My wife had chronic stomach issues her whole life, and we were under a nutritionist care. When she went and did ayahuasca, it was gone. Her chronic stomach issues were gone. And when our nutritionist, who did not know was a regular medical doctor, did her blood work post ayahuasca, he was mystified. He said, it's like the blood work of a different person. And she didn't tell him what happened. And I know what happened. You did ayahuasca. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And so it's
well, it's not the first time that science has either stiff-armed something they should be studying or accepted perhaps something that they shouldn't be, and in terms of, look at opioids right now. We're all hearing about how OxyContin, oxycodone, which are derivative opioid drugs made by pharmaceutical companies from a plant medicine, both used for tripping and for medicinal purposes all over the earth for time immemorial, right? And literally, the Bayer Aspirin Company created heroin. Heroin is a brand name for an opioid, and it was named that for its heroic effects on pain. So maybe science was just burned at one point because they made this big mistake with heroin by concocting this thing, chasing this thing. And then there was just from now on, it's only stuff we can make chemically in a lab, and that doesn't have any of this history to it, perhaps. But now that we're entering a phase of trusting science, I think it's a great it could be the dawning of an era where science looks into these things without fear or favor, not expecting it to turn out the way people are saying, but not afraid that, oh yeah, we did tests on ayahuasca. We did controlled clinical trials on the benefits of it. We did, brain scans before and after. We did, we looked at people's blood work. We understood what part of ayahuasca is beneficial. Maybe there's a way of like we've done with other things, removing the psychotropic aspects of it, like CBD oil has caught on in a lot of ways. Initially, they couldn't even look into the benefits that pot brought to a lot of people because you wouldn't even allowed to look at it, because you'd lose your license. And so some of that, is I think part of that unique thing. And I think why, for lack of a better phrase, brand ambassadors on exploration and not being afraid, like yourself, and to some degree myself, like, I'm not interested in using this. I'm not just doing this. And by the way, earlier when I was talking about people who just want to cover for their own use, I was only talking about Bill Maher in that moment. Everybody else were pretty good about it. But it was clear that he was like, I just don't want to get hassled in my house. Like, it was so personal. And that's why nobody listens to him when he argues it. That's the problem. So when you do know, somebody in our chat room was saying, let's science this. Let's science the S out of this, as the Martian once said. There's value in looking into this stuff. Mm-hmm. Whoops, we froze for a second.
Yes, there's got to be an actual reaction. Something that can be broken down scientifically, and said this is what occurred during this. When this plant, whatever was in this plant, came into your body, it caused this reaction, and let's science the F out of it. That's what we need to do.
Right. Exactly. It's like, and this is where we find out that in Star Trek, that little thing that they wave over you was actually science from ayahuasca. It's an ayahuasca ray. They figured out, and so McCoy just had an ayahuasca ray, and he just over you, and that's what does it. But until we dare to look, we won't be able to find out. So, we got to take another break.
Please, people.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Go ahead. No.
All right.
I think you were going to say don't do this unguided. Right. Don't do it. Right.
Like you need a prescription and doctor's care.
Yeah.
Some guidance with this to do it, something you can order and just start eating ayahuasca or smoking.
We are arguing for science to do its due diligence, not everybody to race down to some pup tent in South America and start doing whatever they hand you in a bowl. That's not what we're looking for. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this with more of Dee Snider, Johnny Million. This is the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. I know which hour is going to be the podcast this weekend, though, when they turn it.
And go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll be back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad we got to bring that up, because I also think it lays into, and again, we're in a little bit of a break, like 2 minutes, but I think it lays into that, being that kind of sideline viewer where you're not as invested as the person who's experienced it and may want it to work and maybe experiences a placebo effect, which can also be a part of any of these things, or the people who are like, it will never work, and they have a nocebo effect, meaning that they would deny its worth even if they saw it happen, right? Mm-hmm. And being on the side of it and going, I'm not interested, I'm not doing it. I'm just looking at it as an observer, as a scientist would do, and going, is it helping, and where does it help? Can we limit it to just its usage to just where it helps, and somehow find a way to extract the parts that don't help? And then then we call it medicine. That's what we call medicine in our world.
Very true. And I would go even further on my end, call myself a cynic. Okay. Yeah. My wife went on a spiritual path, and it led her down here, and the kids all went with her. And I was very cynical, mm-hmm. And so, but I can't, I'm not going to be that person who just goes, what do you say? Nocebo, nocebo. I'm going to sit there and be a denier, right. I'm not that guy. So once I start seeing the real reality of it, I can't deny this. Right. So this has changed my wife and changed my son and my daughter and my other son. And, I said, this is undeniable. Plus all the vets with the PTSD, and how many, more and more of them are turning to plant.
I have Dee, just so you know, Richard, our other guest, was supposed to be on in the first hour. He popped in. I think we miscommunicated, but his last name is Ojeda. I'm just saying, spelled the exact same way. And I would be.
Yeah, I was all excited at first. I was like, "You're kidding me!"
If the major, Major, hop on with us real quick and say hello.
Back on the beat, and here is the mega worldwide radio program with Hal Sparks.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got Dee Snider still with us, and Richard Ojeda from No Dem Left Behind is also joining us as well. And I'm so happy to make this introduction because, Richard, first of all, as always, thank you for your service. It's the same thing I say to Dee, actually, in a lot of ways. But you share a last name with one of Dee's original bandmates of Twisted Sister.
Yes.
And that was an exciting point for you, Richard Ojeda from No Dem
Ojeda.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
It absolutely was. That's awesome. Dee Snider. Holy
Yes.
smokes. Yes. Yes.
Hey,
I
brother.
love you, man.
Thank
This
you.
for the record, we're and I don't know, Dee, if you're aware, but Richard has his own podcast, and he shows up. He does Stuttering John's. That's how we were introduced. He does Stuttering John's podcast sometimes, and he has an organization called No Dem Left Behind. And the idea is behind it is sort of, it's a grassroots coalition of Democrat support for people in red and purple districts who are normally going to get the funding. And so they create this situation where you're like, don't be afraid to go into these states where allegedly you're not welcome and make your point, stand up for what you believe in. I'm just saying there might be a new theme song for the organization on the new D record.
Dude, wait to hear my new record. I've got a song on there called Stand, which is literally stand for something, just and really, with Hal, with song-wise, and it sometimes shoots me in the face like Daffy Duck. I think it's important that you leave it a little bit open for interpretation. So the word has been used and exploited both and women's premenopausal medication, so, and that's, so stand isn't telling people what to stand for. I'm just trying to tell people, just freaking stand up and be damn it.
Let me say something here. Let me say something here. In 2017, I was a state senator in West Virginia, and it was my speech that lit the match on the teacher strike. But I'm going to tell you this. There was nothing more, hit you in the chest. When I was in the Senate chambers with the doors locked, we had 28,000 teachers standing outside in the hallways, and they were singing, "We're not going to take it." It was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, the teachers strike in and of itself. Exactly. And there should be that interpretation aspect of it. Your music should be, within reason. Obviously, the QAnon folks are in a case all their own, and they seem to be. They seem to be like their superpower seems to be misunderstanding normal things. Yeah. You know what I mean? Taking normal things and
let me tell you, the only time I object, the first line of "we're not going to take it" is "we've got the right to choose."
Yes.
Now, I think that's pretty on the nose. There's nothing metaphorical about that line. I was being very deliberate with those words. Pro-choice.
Yeah.
So these organizations who are anti-pro-choice, I simply reach out to them and say, "Do you know the words?"
Right.
And they're like, "What? Well, we're not going to take it." I said, "No, the first line, we got the right to choose." Oh my God. And they stop using it immediately.
Yeah.
So if you don't stand for freedom of choice, I've got a problem with that. But otherwise, it's a song for everybody.
Technically speaking, if you don't stand for freedom of choice, you kind of don't stand for freedom. Yeah. I mean, if there is a function of freedom, it's sort of the ability to make a decision on your own.
It's kind of an overqualification.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. It's a little, being pro-choice and is pro-freedom at its root. I've always been confused by their use of the flag. Now, this is. And by the way, I know Richard's still just fanboying. We got all ours out of the,
Hey, Richard.
For yourself, I've still got some in the chamber.
I'll do your show, man. I'd love to come on your podcast.
Hell yeah.
So
Airborne.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Johnny still got some in the chamber for that as well. When you're talking about Richard as being as a state senator, helping to lead this, and Dee making this choice to go in front of Congress or to be open about your political beliefs, because I know some people art-wise like to remove it for the sake of that interpretation. But then there's some people, where you just can't. You can't listen to some people's lyrics and go, you can't listen to a Queensryche record like Empire and go, I don't know where they stand politically. I don't know what their concerns are. Like literally in the song Empire, he's singing the budget allocation for education and law enforcement in the song. There's literally, instead of a soul. Yeah. So that choice to, and since we're talking about choice in that regard, to stand out there, I think, what would you say to people who are afraid of making that choice, of standing, literally to motivate them to feel free to be themselves fully? That, what would be your advice on that? Whether it's baby steps or the reality, how do you, because I think you guys both, and I certainly do, and I know Johnny does, you look at the world slightly differently. I think we all share one thing in that we feel like we belong in the world in a way that maybe we don't sometimes. You know what I mean? In spite of the wall put up by people, as in, you feel like an outsider who's just destined to be in that regard. And maybe it's how we were in high school. Maybe it's just you weren't always an outsider. But what's your advice to people who want to, who feel all these things but are a little afraid to make that stand? First, and then Richard. Yeah.
That's really a tough one. But certainly, if the Dr. Phil repeated quote, how's it work? How's that working out for you? Right. Sitting back and letting the things just happen. How's that working for you? You're happy with how you feel, and when you realize that you're not, that's the first thing you say. And there are ways to stick your toe in the water and get involved without being a screaming lunatic like I can be sometimes. But just get behind people like me and Richard and Hal and people who are voices and support us in what we're doing and what we're saying in a simple, what he said.
Yeah, right.
That goes a long way. A retweet, a like, a sharing of something, of a message. You don't have to be standing on the soapbox yourself, but you can at least cheer those on who are standing on that soapbox.
Right. There's a power in audience. It's that we do vote with our dollars these days. Like I often make a point of, I have a lot of music tastes, but in my life, there's music I have and music that I buy and music that I own. And there's certain music that I own. I'll buy 3 different versions of a certain record. Like I have, the digital cassette and LP version of most, if not all, I think, all of your stuff, Dee. I'm pretty sure all. Because I don't think I have an LP of Widowmaker. I have a CD of it, but I don't know that you ever did a vinyl release that I'm aware of.
We did.
Yeah, because if it was, I'd have it.
We're hoping to do something with that, by the way. So stand by.
Absolutely. And so, Richard, what would you say to people who are like, because you chose to serve. That is a life choice of putting yourself on the vanguard of a circumstance or whatever. And that's a mental space that you occupy, maybe naturally, maybe not. Did you talk yourself into it? No. Yeah.
No, when I was, I spent 24 years in the military. And to be honest with you, all I cared about was who promises to give me the most beans and the bullets so that I can accomplish my, this nation's mission of winning this nation's wars. When I retired from the military and I come home, I started paying more attention to local politics. And that's when I decided to throw my hat in the ring. And that's where I was almost murdered. I took a pipe to the back of the head and 8 broken bones in my face with brass knuckles because I stood up to these friggin' jackaloons. But I tell people all the time, ignorance is bliss, but you've got to follow politics. more people have got to stand up and start following politics, because once you realize what's really going on behind the scenes, you can't sit silent, because this deals with the future of your children. And we need more people to pay more attention and stop falling for this garbage that we see that gets basically fed to these people on a national scale. I mean, this QAnon stuff alone tells you how some of these people will fall for anything. But people have got to start getting involved, because if we don't, they are going to continue to win. And I'm telling you, once they get, like West Virginia, they have a super majority. They are going after education in our state so bad, to where I will tell you public schools are going to have nothing. They're going to be completely gutted. And why? Because people don't pay attention to politics, and all they care about is the guy that knocks on their door that says, God, gays, and guns, and they friggin' elect them without knowing anything about them. And it's a shame.
Right.
We got to be more educated on politics.
Well, and that's, I'm glad you bring that up too, because I have to say, D2, the number of songs that you deal with, like, that have to deal with hypocrisy as a major, like, that's what drives me more than anything. Like, I don't care if somebody lives a lifestyle or has a belief system that's different from mine necessarily. I feel like I can talk to them, and that it's the hypocrisy that makes me angry. The Ted Cruz stuff that happened this week. I know you guys saw that as it was happening, and it's brutal, not in just his disregard for his own constituency, but the blatant hypocrisy and the lie he's been putting, and the fact that he would call other people out for years and then do something like this without any regard for the ramifications of it is in and of itself just extraordinary. And it's enraging. So, Dee, in that, in those terms, what's the thing that makes you the most aggravated? But is it, in terms of when you see something politically where you're like, that's something I have to jump on?
Wow. What Richard is saying is absolutely, absolutely true. People aren't paying attention to what's going on. They're watching it's what the magician has. He has something trying to distract you from what's actually going on. Right. And there's a lot of distraction out there. And a lot of politicians, they really play off of that. I think they really work the fact that we're paying attention. We're looking over here. I mean, Trump did. He loved just like when he was operating, doing his thing. He had this craziness that just kept people focused on the craziness and not the corruption that was going on. And people were missing. There'd be misdirection. That's the word. Yes. And what Richard is saying is that we gotta pay attention to what's going on. It's beyond guns, gays, and God. They're using that to misdirect you, to distract you, and while other things are happening behind your back.
Yeah. Look at during the time when you bring up those things like guns, guts, and God were become this this rallying cry of the right. That was when credit default swaps were happening. That's when the lead up, the biggest cries about that stuff, the culture war aspect of it for almost 15 years, was in direct lead up while the credit default swap damage was happening that eventually led to the 2008 crash, which caused, obliterated wealth for a lot of middle-class people, just, sent a lot of people into poverty, destroyed households, lives ended. And it was all during this time where they were selling this whole thing that Democrats are going to come for your guns. And that's the only thing you have to worry about, is that the idea that they're going to want that. And the real damage was coming from another front. It was a misdirection. It was the inflated tanks before D-Day. It was a whole field full of air, tank balloons, so that the Luftwaffe would think the tanks were coming from another direction. And that is the current Republican methodology, it seems. Go ahead, Richard.
But you got to also understand that, they're doing that now, and they redo this every so often. But, for 8 years, we listened to these people attack President Obama for everything, from a daggone tan suit to golfing. But then the moment that Donald Trump takes over, they're completely silent on the fact that he's golfing, and he's actually making a fortune from his golfing.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump got a pass. And that's one of the things people got to understand. If all you do is get your news from one source, which is Fox News, then you're going to continue pushing the same bullshit that they
hold
push.
on. Oh, now we've got dumped again. It happens. It's real radio. It's okay. 3, 2, 1, and we're back. It's okay. It keeps the guys in Chicago on their toes. I forgot to tell you, Richard, we're real radio, so we have to do all the FCC rules. We got to take, we are going to take a break, by the way. We'll come back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, with no Dem Left Behind. I want to talk about that in the break, and then I want to talk about Dee's new and of course the fact that Johnny just sneezed into his elbow like a proper post-COVID behavior. Yes. Yeah, we'll be back right after this. Right. Do the Dracula, right? We'll be back right after this. Dee, I'm going to at some point I'm going to send you Johnny's solo instrumental guitar record, and you're going to want him to play on your record. I'm just saying it's going to happen. It's not. I'm not going to force you. It's just going to happen naturally. You're going to hear it, and you're going to go, oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Hal knows rock and roll, so I'll definitely check that out for sure.
Damn straight. So,
and by the way, I just want to at some point we get it in here, but also on the air as well, talking about the plant medicines. Sending people to thankyouplantmedicine.com for any direction they want or guidance or more information. It's a good source. People want to know more about the plant medicine.
It's almost as if I've been paying attention. I've got the website ready to pull up.
Very nice.
Along with this. See, I'm almost a pro at this now. Yeah.
Love to do your show, Richard. Hey, I love doing it. And, interestingly, I'm actually, I have voted Democrat, independent. I was a McCain supporter before he brought Sarah Palin on board. I actually wrote in a motorcade at Sturgis. I'm just looking for rational human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or just trying to.
McCain was rational for a good while.
Yeah.
It's not just about being a Democrat. It's just about someone who wants it to work and get some. So fucking.
I just want to see leaders. I want to see real leaders again.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also, literally in terms of the Republican platform versus the Democratic platform, there are some essentials that, Republicans were always kind of a non-starter because of the Republic versus the Democratic voting style of it. They've left that behind anyways. And McCain at least was kind of an old school, he was not, we're really a Republic. You don't really vote for president. You vote for electors. The electors choose, that kind of stuff, which is the essence of the Republican Party. He was beyond that. He was a modern
20 seconds.
Okay, thank you. He was a modern Republican who just, believed you should get the most votes and show that you can lead the country and come up with tax policy that benefits the most people in the best way, blah, blah, blah. Like it used to be really.
To the other side.
Yeah.
It's all to the other side of the aisle. Biden and him had a long relationship, and they worked together,
Yeah, not like Lindsey Graham. Good Lord.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending. Yay!
So we always have a happy ending on the show as best we can. It's been tough over the last year. It really, really has. But today of all days, having Richard on with us and having Dee on with us and me and Johnny Million, it's the culmination of a lot of work and I want to, before we get into our, we get caught up in the next conversation about it, I do want to bring up that there's a site called Thank You Plant Medicine that Dee wanted people to look into, especially when, in terms of the conversation we were having earlier. It's
if you have any questions, you want guidance or want to know more.
Yeah, it's thankyouplantmedicine.com. And the hashtag is Thank You Plant Medicine. Now, there's a lot of plant medicines, by the way. Obviously, the higher end psychotropics are gonna get the most news because if it makes the walls bleed, it leads. I suppose. But there, everybody who drinks tea to settle their stomach, or like lemon verbena tea or like lemon honey tea for your throat, like those kind of things, that's plant medicine too in its own way. It's just on a different scale. And at certain points, what we need to do, and this is the most crucial part of this, and I can't stress this enough, is we need to start pushing for science to look fearlessly into these things, where the government is not going to shut you down if you do real genuine clinical study of the benefits of plant medicine, acupuncture, massage, acupressure, whatever, all the organic medicines that have shown up in different societies for thousands of years and have had, have a giant, list of people who've had efficacy and not had efficacy. And you check them for a placebo and a nocebo effect, and you do the real science. That's what I believed was necessary about the legalization of pot. And I think there is a value in looking into these things and going, you know what? There's actually a lot of great stuff about it. If we could just remove the part that makes you think that your landlord from college is outside your door with 1,000 teeth in his head and a hatchet for arms, if we can eliminate that part of it, maybe, just maybe. So I'm going to post that again for everybody to look at. Thank you, plantmedicine.com. And I want to thank Dee for bringing that up. And then Richard, go ahead. Yeah,
I just want to say real quick, one of the things, my bill was what made West Virginia the 29th state to become legal for medical cannabis. And it was such a hard fight because the truth is that, people, Big Pharma is controlling everything, and Big Pharma doesn't want anything to pass without them having their hands in the money. So, this is one of the things where
they're controlling the scientists too.
Right.
Exactly. Well, when you know that something works, you've got to let your legislators know that so that they push for that, because if not, Big Pharma will shut it down. And
which is exactly how medical cannabis ultimately got passed. It's ultimately, that's how the conversation started. It was becoming an overt aspect where there were so many people who were using it for pain mediation and all kinds of other stuff who didn't have insurance, by the way. The irony is that the Republicans fighting against things like the ACA eventually led to the fact that people were self-medicating with other things, and there was enough allegorical evidence, that led them to eventually having to look into it. And a similar thing will happen with a lot of these things. And like I said, literally, Bayer Aspirin was behind the first major use of syndicated opioid use in the United States, and the creation of heroin and other painkillers. And while we're synthesizing OxyContin and oxycodone and pretending that they don't come from opium, and saying that they have mined opium for other benefits and have used it willy-nilly, the idea that you can't look into these other things and have scientific studies for their benefits and eliminate any of the fantastical aspects of it and focus on what's repeatable, what's reusable, what's safe is ridiculous. And I think the next big movement should be to push science to have the freedom, the choice. We've got the right to choose it, one would even say. Right. In that regard. So I think that's fantastic. And then of course I want to mention No Democrat Left Behind. No Dem Left Behind, that movement, and Richard, the benefit of not being afraid to go into red districts. The statement here is rural Democrats, we do exist. It's amazing that has to be like the lead feed on that. But what would you say to somebody who's thinking about running for office and they're like, well, I'm in a red state, it's really not going to change, I'm not going to have any support?
Well, ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to reach out to these red rural districts, and we're asking the people that live there, do you know somebody that could be a candidate that the people could get behind, that we can finally get rid of some of these friggin' red seats? We could flip these red seats blue. It's not easy, but I'm telling you right now, there are amazing candidates out there. We had a candidate by the name of Lindsay Simmons in Missouri, who absolutely was a Harvard grad, who was phenomenal when it comes to speaking to folks. Her husband was a helicopter pilot deployed with a bounty on his head, and she didn't win, but she did a phenomenal job and broke literally records across the state. So, and you know what? We may not be successful this race, but now everybody in the state knows exactly who she is and are now more likely to lean towards her if she runs again. And we sure are hoping that she runs again.
That's great. Dee, I since we've only got like 3 minutes left in the show, I want you to describe what was it like, and people should watch the documentary We Are Twisted Sister, by the way, but summarize just in line with what Richard was saying, what you had to go through as a band when you were first starting out before you got a record deal. How many tries did you have to make? What was that process like?
Well, and as I said, I will tell you an attack on Richard too. You build off of the energy of what that woman did in that state. She may not have won the election, but that the people start building off that energy. It's good. We formed the band formed in '73. Didn't make it officially until '84.
Right.
I joined in '76. I remember having 5 go-rounds with record labels, 5 demo tapes, 5 pushes, 5, and being rejected by every single record company in the United States 5 times. And finally going to England, like Hendrix did, like the Stray Cats did, like Joan Jett did, to get signed to an indie label there. And then when we broke in England, coming back to the States, and I remember when we came back to the States to perform, people would meet me and say, "Where's your English accent?" And
right.
what are we talking about? From New York. They said, "Well, we read about you. We got the record out of England. We read about you in Kerrang. We heard about you in England." But it was a very long struggle. But you keep building off a little bit of success, a little bit of ground you're taking, and until you finally get to where you need to go. And it's not an insurmountable obstacle, for a band, for an artist, or for a party to make a change where they where they live. Against all odds.
Every rung in the ladder matters. I want to thank you both for being on. Dee, love you, brother. Thank you for being there live from the American Psycho apartment. I appreciate that. Thanks for repainting, covering the blood on the walls. And Richard, thanks so much for being with us. It was nice to get to hook you guys up. I look forward to you guys, him being on your podcast and that conversation. We'll make it happen. Johnny Million, love you, man. It's nice to share the show with you on days like this, especially. It's crazy. Thanks everybody for listening. Stay tuned for Dick K, and we'll do a little bit of a post show after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll see you next weekend.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dee.
Hey, Richard. Thanks, brother. Nice to meet you. Look forward to it.
Guys, thanks so much. Just amazing, and I appreciate it so much, and I'm glad you guys could get hooked up. And like I said, I genuinely look forward to the conversation you're going to be having on your show. Are you typing, Johnny?
Nope. Get it set up, man. This is awesome. Thanks, Hal.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
I'm sorry God, there's so much information going by in the chat area.
Yeah.
I can't read it. Occasionally, is that my name there or something? I think it says.
Yeah.
I wish we could interact, but I can't. But Hal, brother, we'll always be brothers. It's been
always.
Time since Dee Snider Radio in Connecticut, 20 years.
I know, man. I know. So honor to be on there when you're and on Sirius and the like. It was just awesome. So I look forward to doing it again, and we'll share a stage again very soon in the new future. It's gonna happen.
You know where I am. So
man, I do.
Johnny, I'll look forward to hearing your stuff, brother.
Thanks, Dee. It's an honor.
Thanks so much, brother. Okay, cheers.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks. Awesome. Just awesome. Just so much awesome. Just a whole lot of awesome. And thanks, chat. I'm sorry if you guys, if I wasn't as engaged today, but obviously we're flying. This is how fast the chat is going by. It's been wild today, and I appreciate it. And thank you guys. Don't forget to give a thumbs up and a like and a subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I've committed to getting more folks on the actual show as as guests and the like, and we will continue to grow that as well. Just fantastic. And
yeah, what a good dude. I liked is how much he obviously appreciates you. He really enjoys your humor and everything. It was neat to see.
Yeah. I mean, that's a weird thing because you and we saw them in high school. I was Soretsky and I went to them opening up for Iron Maiden at the Horizon. I was there too, but I wasn't with you.
Oh yeah?
That was before we knew each other.
Wow, yeah, I was 84. We didn't meet till 85.
Yeah. Because I was just in a different crowd or something. It took that long for our groups in school to crisscross. It was basically it was midway through that year because that's when I
I think so.
I showed up in this in the summer essentially, which is when that was, and I didn't have any friends yet. So I was just my dad got me a ticket. I think I went by myself. I actually didn't. Yeah, nobody was with me at that show.
We were maybe 15th row, and
yeah, you were in front of me.
There were like Iron Maiden diehard fans there with like / no Twisted Sister signs.
Right. Yeah, it was hilarious.
And he was like, "Oh, that's really cute. No Twisted Sister. Oh, that's really cute." And he ended up, of course, jumping into the crowd to fight with somebody. Scared the hell out of me.
That was awesome. I've been at, I was actually at the show. Yeah, that was how many shows have I been at where somebody's jumped into the audience? Because I wasn't there when Baz jumped into the crowd, but I was there at the LA show when Guns N' Roses didn't show and there was a riot. And then they showed up late, and then he jumped into the crowd feet first. Remember that business?
Yeah. And I remember Baz throwing like a bottle back into the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
You think you're going to hit your target, Sebastian?
Yeah, I would have him on as a guest, but there is no way he could maintain an FCC rules, I don't think. Even though he was on Gilmore Girls, he couldn't. Yeah, there's just no. Oh God, I'm gonna sign off. I have to. Summer's doing a video / photo shoot, and I need to see if she needs me to help. There is a chance that she needs me to run over there. So fingers crossed. Yes, Sebastian Bach. That's who we're talking about with Baz. Yeah. Like we call him that, because because I've sung on stage with him.
Got his record, my CD case back there.
Yeah, stuff like that. But man, what a show today! And I love you, brother, and thank you for being here.
Me too. I actually took pictures of my monitor, like pictures. I took pictures, like an old man.
Yeah, no, it's good. And we will be we'll make it happen. I swear to God, there'll be a Chicago show. There will be something. I don't know if it's Johnny Million being handed a guitar, or bringing his own rig. I don't know how it happens, but it happens. We're gonna make it happen.
We got to do it again.
Yeah, I mean with Dee and yeah, I'm dead serious. Like something like that's got to happen. Just as long as this.
Go for that. If you were around, it sounds like he would go for it. He loves you.
Yeah. Well, he's a good man. He's a good. And again, we're in the rare teetotaler group, and so and I have so much respect for him as a human being and as an artist. And I told him the first time.
So much crap for it too. I remember reading in Kerrang and Circus and Hit Parader of people making fun of him for not drinking.
Right. Yeah. And it was. I mean, that's
they're calling him a poser. He's this different character on stage. And but is he really?
Is he? No. I mean, doesn't he? He's just choosing not to. Why would? Isn't that just conformity?
Yeah.
Right now, isn't that what you're arguing for? So, but I already fanboyed the first time we met and hung out, and we had to rehearse on celebrity duets. I'd met him. I'd been on his radio show before that, but it was the first time I got to sit down with him and tell him how, when I did Frog, that after school special thing I did with Shelley Duvall and Ellie Gould, and I was away from school. I went away for a week and a half. I started school late that year to finish shooting that thing. And it was drop of the hat. You're going to stay. You were supposed to fly back, but you're going to stay and shoot this thing. And it was amazing. It was a great thing to happen as a 16-year-old actor finally getting a job. And I only had 2 cassettes with me to listen to. Cassettes. They're an old form of using of music delivery. And I had the Crazy Nights cassette single.
Nice.
And which I think had Thief in the Night on the other side of it. I'm going to have to look it up.
That's right.
But, and then Stay Hungry.
Yeah. Stay Hungry was a cassette that I listened to so much. It was one of those cream colored cassettes.
Yeah.
And I wore the writing off of it.
Yeah.
With my greasy hands.
Yeah.
Going in and out of the Walkman. And I was telling my wife earlier that when I think about Stay Hungry, I think about mowing the lawn. Because that's what I would listen to when I was mowing the lawn. Was I put on my little Walkman and listen to Stay Hungry and
I think well, I mean, there's a lot of memories in my thing, but I think of Pee Wee Herman sometimes when I think of Stay Hungry, because when we were shooting Frog, we used a location that they shot, a movie theater that they used in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Okay.
It was one of the same sets. And the same week, I was eating lunch someplace by myself. This was in Brentwood because I was staying with a friend of my dad's girlfriend. So because I wasn't getting paid enough to be able to afford my own place. So I was basically flopping in their guest room. And I walked down this place and ate, and Paul Rubens was eating there.
Oh, wow.
He was just sitting right. I mean, I didn't say anything because I was like, 16 years old. And I was like, is that Pee Wee Herman out? Yeah. It is. It's just
real because there was not many photos of him outside of his getup.
Never. And it was almost out of respect to some degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was this weird thing, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't important. That's why a lot of people didn't know that wasn't his name.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just a fascinating experience, and that both of those things happened at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So now they're like implanted.
Yeah. It's funny that it doesn't make me think of Saved by the Bell, considering that Elizabeth Berkley played my girlfriend in that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was interesting. She thought I was going to make a move on her. So she asked the director if we have to do our kissing scene because she thought I was going to slip her the tongue. This was her concern because the tutor they had assigned to us thought I was trouble. She basically thought I was a risky boy.
Mm-hmm.
I think was the phrase she used to describe me.
Good on you, tutor.
Yeah, she could see me. Yeah. Little did she know that I had met one of the background, an actress who was, one of our background, and we'd already started dating, like for real. And I actually, like when I moved back to LA, we dated for, like after I graduated, like it went on, off and on that many times. Crazy. But I already had a girlfriend in 3 days, I mean, that's high school. We're steady now. It's been 48 hours. I mean,
case in point, you're trouble.
Yeah. Excuse me. I locked it down very early. I was in trouble. I was
problematically.
All right. She approached me. Just saying. Yeah.
She goes to another school in Canada.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's. I have stories. I'll tell you off the air. But it was but nice ones. But I just don't know if anybody in the case of that one's like, let's reminisce about that. But that was like that album. When I was staying where I was during the shooting of it, it was not the most comfortable circumstance where I was staying. It was the woman I was staying with was very angry with her daughter all the time. They were constantly yelling at each other, and her daughter was. I had to pay her to drive me to and from because I didn't have my license yet. So I had to pay, and I couldn't drive in California underage without somebody there. So I had to pay her to drive me to and from set when I went to work. So she was my chauffeur for that or whatever. And they were always, and I remember very distinctly, very high school moment, sitting on the edge of the bed in this guest room upstairs while her mom was yelling at her, and she was probably 22, something like that. And her mom screamed at her, "He's 16 and he's got his shit together better than you." Like using the fact that I was working to like batter her.
That's awful.
It was awful. It was terrible. And I'm like, and I just put on my headphones and listened to Stay Hungry.
There's nothing worse than like being used as a cudgel like that against your will.
Yeah.
And you had no agency. You couldn't say, "All right, back off."
Yeah. Who am I to say it? Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't going to change because I did it. It may make it worse. I don't know. Yeah. It's one of those things. I don't know these people. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in this room, and there's no art on the walls in this room. It was just a bed. I very distinctly remember it was like they had a little dresser, a bed, and blank walls. It was the creepiest thing. And I'm like, is this her room when I'm not here?
Yeah. Yeah. Those thoughts. Yeah.
It was bad. And I just like absorbed into that album. And I remember listening to Horror-Teria over and over and over again.
Yes. I couldn't come up with that, the name of that, but the three songs.
Yeah.
Captain Honey and
Street Justice. Yeah, and I think it was two. Weren't they two bonded together, and then there was another one. But they literally fed into it. You know, it was the two sides of that story, which was always fascinating. You know,
yeah,
and
might just be two.
that's where I would escape into. So, anyways, fascinating. I'm sure that everybody, in the chat room is fascinated by this stuff. Yes, it was kind of like a motel. Yes. So anyways, I'm going to sign off, guys, and check and see if Summer needs me.
And if any of you actually want to get up to date on Dee Snider and Twisted Sister, that documentary is amazing. We Are Twisted Sister.
Yes.
The album Stay Hungry is it's their greatest hits.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. Although I am a big Love Is for Suckers fan.
I was going to ask him about Love Is for Suckers because that was supposed to be a solo album, and the record company pressured him to make it a Twisted Sister record.
Right.
So I would love to talk to him about that.
Yeah, and I love that record. I mean, it's the production on it. I wish the other Twisted Sister records had a little more of that juice on it. Not much, but a little bit. You know what I mean? Just it's got, it's the only thing that makes the songs slightly dated when people play them on the radio without them being remastered. That's it, and it's the drums.
Red Beach on guitar too.
Yeah, I know, and I remember Red Beach. My favorite Red Beach story, which is you and I watching a Winger video the first time it came on, and I literally said out loud, I think we were at Soretsky's house. I'm like, I don't know who this asshole is, but he lucked out in the guitar department. And I meant Kip Winger. I meant I don't know who he is, but he sure lucked out finding this guitar player because that was just, I think it was headed for a heartbreak. Headed for a heartbreak. The solo in that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Red Beach is just a monster.
Yeah, just incredible. So, anyways, I'm going to get your album from you, and I'm going to pass it along to Dee, and that's going to happen. And I just think it's awesome. Just gonna say,
thank you.
That's just kind of life, and that was our happy ending. Thank you, guys. And somebody's yelling "rock on" in the thing. Yeah, don't forget to give a thumbs up, everybody. I'm gonna run. Thanks for being there. I'm pulling my thumbs up hair out. I'm not gonna stop spamming the chat until we have 500 thumbs up. Thank you, Ben. I did say Winger, and I'll have you know that Winger is the most has more radio hits than any progressive rock group in history, because that's what they are. If you listen to the
progressive rock thing before,
I'm gonna die on the hill that Winger is a progressive rock band, because if you listen to their time signature changes,
the drummer's insane. Who did they have? I can't remember.
Rod
Morgenstern.
Yeah.
I mean, they were Alice Cooper's touring band.
Yeah.
And then they said, you know what? We're pretty good. What should we do when Alice isn't touring? Oh, we should become that super group.
And all the demos, which are basically them, sound exactly like, the ones that Kip did sound like the album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Aggie, for Swedish Kroner. That's always fun when we get something. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you. So, all right. Yeah. 5/7 time. Exactly. Like what hair metal band, quote unquote, is doing 5/7 time on a change?
Yeah, JJ French is not keeping up with that.
No, he is not. That's right. That's true. All right.
Give him my best.
All right, I will. All right. Cheers, everybody. I'm going to sign off now. Give me 1 second, and I'll close out properly, I think.
That's funny.
Captions, is it?
Thanks again, Bill.
Dude, absolutely. I'm glad this could happen, and I'm excited, and wonderful. And there you go. Yeah. All right. Cheers. Bye. Bye, Johnny. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Really kind of amazing. Appreciate you being here with us, and I appreciate the love and support. And like I said, if I missed anybody because of the super chats and all that kind of stuff, it was kind of a busy day today because Richard was supposed to be on the first hour, but he jumped in the second half of the second hour, and Dee was supposed to be in the second half of the second hour because I didn't think I was going to be able to have him the whole time, and he jumped on before the beginning of the second hour. So that's fun, and it makes for a great show. So Ojeda for America. Thanks for putting that up. Can't Stop Lying. Airborne. And the nice thing is now Richard gets to have Dee on as a guest on his show. See? Making political love connections everywhere I turn. That's what we're doing. So yes, I know I'm still going. It's a Midwest goodbye. I get it. Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to sign off. You guys have a beautiful day. I will see you guys later on. And take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I will see you guys with the special report, Absolute Evidence, which is going to be just you know what I mean? So be prepared. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.